Coming up on today's episode, 240 hertz, better picture or marketing BS to sell more HDTVs. Cheap 65-inch TVs are back, and our picks for the best discs to show off your home theater. All coming up on this episode of HD Nation. Today's episode is brought to you by Netflix and GoDaddy.com.
HD Nation.
Welcome to HD Nation. I'm Robert Heron.
And I'm Patrick Norton. This is the very first episode of HD Nation. We're talking about your guide to the best in HD content. We don't care where it comes from, over the air, online, satellite, Blu-ray disc, as long as it looks good. And we're also going to have the best in home theater gear no matter what your budget is. Because our budget usually down around here.
Yeah. Yeah, we love high def. It brings you the movies the director shot. It makes good TVs more compelling, and it makes NASCAR look amazing, or any motorsport for that matter.
It's been kind of crazy the last few years, right? You know, for years we're at the Consumer Electronics Show. It's HDTV, and it's always eagles soaring on mountain vistas, usually with Korean subtitles. And we're all like, okay, whatever. And then HDTVs show up. They're 480p, they're 720, 1080p is cheap. It is amazing how inexpensive even Blu-ray discs are finally getting. Let's talk about the news in HD this week. Not that I'm hanging fire like a junkie here, but there's less than 14 days until Battlestar Galactica, the complete series, hits the streets on Blu-ray. I'm a little excited. At least once I got over the sticker shock, I started looking forward to July 28th. The set list for a staggering $350. You can pre-order the 25-disc set for $220 on Amazon.com. It includes all 4.5 seasons, the miniseries, and a doll. Oh, wait, our producer Roger Chang is correcting me. That's a collectible Cylon figurine, and he wants to remind everyone watching that if you open the box, the collectible value drops, so you won't be able to sell it on eBay when you're 50 and retire. Anyhow, I understand none of the webisode shorts. $220, 25 discs, a doll, but no webisode shorts on the disc. What the?
Okay, you fanboy, stop. You're almost as bad as the 700-odd folks on Amazon who gave Lord of the Rings Trilogy 1 star. These are my peeps.
There's not even a release date yet. This is the pre-order, and so many people are so angry that the extended editions are not available now. They're talking boycott.
I am not a fan of the Lord of the Rings Trilogy in any way, shape, or form. It's just,
you're not a fan of Hobbits?
No, I hate Hobbits. I hate Hobbits. The whole movie, in general, it could have been finished in about 20 minutes. All they had to do was just stay on that damn eagle, ride it to Mordor, throw the ring in the fire, be done with it.
But there would have been the ride of the Rohirrim and the battle. In any case, I want to know how many of the fanboys actually signed up to be notified about the extended edition. There's an Amazon.com page for that. 2011, 2012, somewhere around there.
A few more years. Excellent. I like this.
Oh man. Hardware news, Sharp.
They announced brand new LCD televisions. Actually, they are known for making the largest LCD screens available at affordable prices. They just introduced a brand new 60 and 65-inch model, $4,500 and $3,500 respectively. Wow. Those are MSRP prices, of course. The street price should be lower, and then, of course, that decreases over time the longer you wait. They released their first 65-inch screen more than 4 years ago, and it was 20 grand when it first came out. Actually, that's the same price you'll get. Some companies are actually making 70-inch screens, and they're still about 20 grand. So
I'm just like,
a 65-inch screen for about $4,500.
But they were still selling that 65-inch monitor for like how much? That was 20 grand. It was probably still like 10 or 15 grand a couple months ago.
Oh no. It was down under. It was for a while. It was under $3,000.
Oh, okay.
And then it finally, all the supply dried up, and now they've introduced a brand new series for that, as well as some new LED TVs, but the 65-inch screen, I think for the people replacing those rear projection televisions.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That is the gigantic football-friendly screen of joy.
Or gaming.
Oh, let's not even go there. Normally, this is the time on the show where we go over the new titles coming out this week. For example, Mad Men Season 2, The Towering Inferno. I love that movie. Shark Week, The Great Bites Collection. Unfortunate title, great video. But today we're going to hit our top picks for showing off your home theater gear and getting, well, we're going to get the new titles rolling next week. But right now, Mr. Heron, besides MotoGP and NASCAR, when the neighbors come over going, what the hell are you doing all Sunday afternoon where the walls are shaking? What discs can you throw in the player to get people excited about your home theater system?
I'd have to say without a doubt, one of the movies that I'd reach for would be the Matrix Trilogy. Without a doubt, the finest trilogy ever made. I will stand by that till to the day I die.
The first movie I'm with you on.
The best trilogy as a whole. But anyway, it's like, look, it was shot digitally, it was edited digitally, it was transferred in full 1080p, beautiful, encoded with high bitrate, Dolby True HD soundtracks, Dolby Plus 5.1, solid collection of bonus materials, and it's a bargain. HD DVD, if you can still find it. That's how I originally bought it.
Yeah, the trilogy's like 13 bucks.
That's it. And it's available now on Blu-ray, so if you have no excuses on that one.
Well, the Blu-ray version adds in My Beloved Animatrix, making it a 4-disc collection. Again, 1080p VC1, Dolby True HD 5.1 surround track, extras, and again, a ridiculous number of features, although they're in standard def.
That's true.
So I guess technically it's 4 movies, but for our purposes...
Count that first one. Everyone seems to love the first one. I'm holding still to my... holding fast to my, that is the best trilogy.
He can hold fast. I love the Animatrix. The Reloaded and Revolutions I thought sucked wind in a way that I don't want to describe. If you don't want to pay $75 for the god-awful Reloaded and Revolutions, again, I love the Animatrix. I'm going to mention that the Matrix 10th Anniversary Edition Blu-ray can be had for a mere $13. And you can have the Matrix and not be tainted by the other two.
No, nor do I have to think about Hobbits for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, depending on if I watch all 3 back-to-back or not. So.
Oh, man.
Next, I would like to take on the gorgeous saturated colors and the remastered version of The Fifth Element. Now, the original Blu-ray version was released, and literally it looked a lot like just a straight DVD transfer. Things were not right, so I don't think you can even buy that original Blu-ray version anymore. But now you have the remastered version that offers Dolby True HD soundtrack again, AVC MPEG-4 encoded on a 50 gigabyte disc, so you have huge bit rates. So no matter how fast and intense the action gets, or if you just want to see every strand of hair on Lilu's head, and multipass.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
You can like read the multipass.
It is a gorgeous transfer, and it's also considered among videophiles just to be one of those reference discs you always kind of use for audio and video quality.
It was amazing. We were there, the Flu's Blu-ray player comes out, there's some discs, we throw the first disc in, one of the first ones, we're both like, Fifth Element HD, oh my God, it looks like ass. This corrects that problem.
It really does.
It was insane. One more.
Without a doubt, everyone should own a copy of Planet Earth, the BBC version narrated by David Attenborough. It clocks in at 530 minutes, and now if you saw this on Discovery HD, you saw something pretty amazing. And if you pick up the 4-disc Blu-ray collection, you'll get a compression artifact-free tour de force of high-definition video anyhow.
Yeah, it's amazing. The soundtrack, it's 5.1, it's a little more compressed than we'd like, but the truth is True HD wouldn't actually help it that much. The real downside, the real mystery, special features. What's up with that?
I know. If you watched it on TV, or I believe even the DVD edition, they included the how they made it. And honestly, it's as fascinating as the video content itself. They went to extremes to get some of this footage, and it's not on the Blu-ray disc. And you consider that the last disc of the 4-disc collection, it's about half full. They had room there to do it, so.
All right, I'm with you on Planet Earth and The Matrix. I'm not going to get into my ridiculous love of Iron Man, but Goodfellas, though, the HDTV revelation, it was the disc that convinced me that HD was the way for home theater. Blu-ray, 1080p VC1 encode, 178:1 widescreen. Film grain shows up, especially in darker scenes. Magnificent color and detail. The opening scene of Henry Hill watching out a window looks incredible. Scorsese's work at its best. Dolby Digital 5.1 audio. It's a good use of surround sound. Not a whole lot to be gained by throwing more bandwidth at it, so they didn't. Extras, same as the DVD. 2 commentary tracks that are actually worth listening to. The one, though, Scorsese, Liotta, Bracco, Servina, the producers, the cinematographer, Schumacher, cut into this beautiful, coherent commentary about the making of the whole movie, not just a dog pile of voices. Check it out if you haven't. Casino Royale, the explosion in the elevator shaft and the opening chase scene, my single best excuse for why DVD compression can look like major ass compared to high def. I'd mention the compression artifacts in the final race and Speed Racer, but let's not get into how much I actually like that movie and embarrass myself. We're going to have more titles next week. Right now, though, we got to take a moment to thank one of our sponsors and brace yourself because we're talking 240 Hertz TVs and DIY HDTV calibration when we come back. Let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Netflix. If you're looking for a place to find a great selection of Blu-ray discs, look no further than our sponsor, Netflix. With Netflix, you can rent over 90,000 titles online, including, we're willing to bet, more Blu-ray titles than your local video store has. Free shipping both ways to your doorstep. You never have to leave the house again, I guess, except maybe to send them back. But they got over 40 shipping centers, so deliveries happen in a single business day in most cases. Plans start from $4.99, but as a new member, you can get a no-risk 2-week trial membership at www.netflix.com/HDNation, and make sure you type in that www when you're using that code. Please support HD Nation by supporting our sponsors like Netflix. Just when you thought 120 Hz was the end of HDTV refresh rates, we hit the summer of 240 Hz. Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, Vizio, just about every other HDTV maker has something to say about the new speed. Mr. Heron is the HDTV reviewer. 240 Hz, marketing BS, or is it time for all of us to upgrade?
It really depends.
Okay.
Well, first, what are these 240 Hz TVs? Why, anyway? We started out with LCD panels that were running at 60 Hz or 60 Hz refresh rate, and it turned out if you displayed moving video on that, you would lose about half the resolution of the picture whenever anything moved on the screen. Pretty unacceptable, and most people put up with it because, oh, it's flat and it's bright and blah, blah, blah. However, the next step then was to create 120 Hz televisions that were literally updating the screen twice as fast. And that way, we ended up with better motion performance, less blurring, and that's really the key, is de-blurring the picture.
This is all about the plasma versus LCD TV, which one looks better with motion video, right? Because motion traditionally, we're talking action scenes, racing, sports, always looked better on a plasma compared to an HDTV, or excuse me, compared to an LCD TV.
Oh, definitely. Plasmas still remain excellent in terms of their motion characteristics, maintaining picture detail when things are moving. Now, this step from 120 Hz to a 240 Hz display is effectively trying to do the same thing, is to create, well, double the speed yet again, and so that the pixels are being updated twice as fast as that.
So some manufacturers, Sony and Samsung, they're actually doubling the refresh rate. Other manufacturers are using trickery. What's going on there?
It's a good technique. It's called scanning backlight, or a blinking backlight system, and essentially what they're doing is breaking the screen up into blocks, and each block is blanked out in order as the screen's being refreshed to minimize the smearing artifact that occurs, because when the crystals are twisting, if you catch it just right with the video as it's being refreshed, that's effectively what's causing the smearing artifact. But if you can blank that portion of the screen, boom, you can minimize that artifact, but there are trade-offs to doing it that way.
Well, okay, so a cool side effect of this 3-2 pull down to eliminate judder is eliminated because you can kind of repeat the frame over, and 24 frames can be repeated like 5 or 10 times each.
Totally. Well, you have de-blurring, and then you have de-judder for your film content, your 24p material. The nice thing about a 120 Hz display or a 240 Hz display is it's a nice multiple. So with the 120 Hz sets, the good ones would allow you to do a frame repeat. In the case of 120, 5x. In the case of 240, 10x. So if you're a true cinephile, you want to see it just like it looked like in the theater, you do a true frame repeat mode instead of, say, a smoothing mode or a blending mode that introduces more of a camcorder look, which some people find really offensive. Some people like it a little bit of both.
Yeah, it gets too smooth. It just looks wrong. Well,
yeah.
Okay, so
for film, it looks wrong, definitely.
Who's making 240 sets? Who's making the high-end sets? Who's making the more affordable sets?
Right now, there are only two companies doing true 240 Hz, and that would be Sony and Samsung. They are actually using, it requires the use of two rather expensive components in order to achieve that level of performance. Now, there's a less expensive way of doing it, and that's called that blinking or scanning backlight technology. It's almost as effective as true 240 technology, and that's what you're getting from companies like LG, Toshiba, and Vizio.
What are we talking about the price difference between these two?
You can save a lot of money by going with a scanning or a blinking backlight system to get that effect. And
1,000, 2,000, 5,000?
And say, take 52-inch screen sizes, you can save $1,000 or more by going with a scanning system rather than a true 240 Hz set.
If you already have a 60 or 120 Hz television, are people going to notice this enough to upgrade? Should you hold out for a 240 Hz TV if you're on the cusp of buying a new HDTV?
I think it depends on how much you are. How much you pay attention to what it is you're looking at. I think going from a 60 Hz old, if you have like a 3 or 4 or 5 year old LCD and you make the jump now to a 120 or a 240 Hz set, it's going to be night and day. It really will be.
Really?
In terms of motion performance and clarity overall. Things have gotten so much better in the last couple of years, in addition to prices just going down nicely. But if you currently have a solid 240 Hz set or a 120 Hz set that you might have just bought, 6 months ago, I wouldn't feel the need to run out and buy it, but
But this is we're a good place to update my 720p set at home.
Oh, totally.
Oh my goodness. Should we take a moment to thank one of our sponsors?
We should.
We got links up on the website to everything we were talking about here for 240 Hz. Right now, though, before we get into calibrating your HDTV on the cheap, let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, GoDaddy.com. GoDaddy, people, GoDaddy.com. Get reliable, secure web hosting without the long-term contract. GoDaddy's hosting plans are bigger and better than ever with 99% uptime, free 24/7 support, and no annual commitment. GoDaddy.com makes it easy to customize your own virtual dedicated server. Choose one of 3 popular plans or select your own Linux or Windows server with all the plan options you need. Use the code HDN2 to get $5 off $30 or more. Get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com and you can help out HD Nation by using one of those codes. And be sure to check out revision3.com/GoDaddy for all the HD Nation GoDaddy deals and codes. Please support us by supporting our sponsors. We got an email from Shane about calibration discs. Shane writes in, I just bought a new Samsung PN50A650. Okay.
That's a plasma.
Okay, he wants to calibrate it. He was looking at the Digital Video Essentials Blu-ray disc and the Monster ISF HDTV Calibration Wizard, but he's wondering if we have any suggestions about which disc is better or if there's an even better calibration disc out there. All right, you and I did an episode of System a few months ago talking about HD calibration, one of my favorite things, because when you buy an HDTV, the people that made the HDTV set it up just in case it ends up on the show floor at your local Best whatever it is or giant box store so that it's too white and too blue and too bright. So you can get a suntan from it, but mostly so that it'll pop with the other televisions, which basically means it looks nothing like the calibration settings that it should. I'm wearing blue glasses. Why? I'm blind. Are these necessary for calibrating your HDTV?
The primary use for any blue filter is to get your color and tint setting adjusted properly. That's using the right test pattern, you'll be able to use a blue filter to filter out blue light, or actually just filter out the blue, and that's exactly what you use it for. But if you're not going to set up color or tint, you're going to leave those settings alone. You can do everything else just naked eyeball.
Okay.
However, the TV, our writer, our questionnaire threw in there, it actually has a built-in blue mode.
Cool.
So you don't even need special glasses. You can just stick with, turn on the TV's blue mode, do the setting, and then turn the blue mode off when you're done. Arguably, having the TV do it is the best way. Filter glasses or other filters are the second best way.
So you actually have 2 favorite discs that have filter glasses and tools to walk you through calibration of your HDTV. What are these discs I'm holding up?
HD Basics from Joe Kane, the Digital Video Essentials package. That is an incredible reference guide that incorporates not only just tons of information about everything related to set up an HD of your home theater system, it also incorporates great test patterns, and it includes a great filter, a filter that just works just fine. So you don't need to go hunt down a pair of blue filters or anything like that. And it does guided step-by-step instructions for getting a good image quality.
One of the biggest things that are available in these discs are actually, they tell you what processing you're using, so you make sure you don't have the processing misset.
Totally.
On your HDTV.
The other disc I like a lot is that Spears and Munsell hand-forged video. This is kind of a newer title that just came out, but it incorporates the best of the setup patterns in addition to some great video processing tests, just to make sure that you got things like film mode turned on and other things that could potentially, if they're not enabled, be sacrificing up to half of the video resolution, which is little things you just want to make sure are right.
That would be bad. Now,
Totally.
if you don't have time to order one of these, if the HDTV just got home, if you forgot to buy a disc while you're at the store, you're cheap, these are all good reasons. Check out the THX disc and the Calibrator Pixar movies and actually Lucas's movies.
Totally. You got a copy of Star Wars laying around, odds are it has the THX optimizer in the setup menu. You can go in there, it's like extras or something, and you can go in there and it guides you through setting up basic picture controls like brightness, contrast, color and tint if you have the blue glasses, as well as detail. So
They look amazing.
Gets you everything right.
Those are also buried into the extras in the Pixar disc. If you haven't done it, take some time to calibrate your HDTV. It makes a huge difference in actually making the movie or the cartoon or the sports look actually the way they're supposed to.
At least get out of the default setting the TV's using and go to your cinema or movie mode. That's a good first step. For your nighttime watching, your critical viewing. Daytime viewing, go nuts. Turn on the vivid mode if you want, but for your critical viewing at night.
Well, yeah, if you're in a room with windows and bright sunlight coming in, if you're in the basement and it's dark in your custom home theater den of evil, then you should probably use the nighttime settings. Dude, our very first episode of HD Nation is just about over.
Yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode of HD Nation, but please, let us know what you think.
Send your comments, your questions, your suggestions to hdnation@revision3.com or hang out with the other viewers in the HD Nation forums at revision3.com/forum.
And of course, you can find show notes and all of the various ways to subscribe to the HD Nation feed at revision3.com/HD Nation. So you can be sure to get the latest episode as soon as it's available. Thanks for watching.
Hey, I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Robert Heron.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye, everyone.